But this series is designed on purpose for all eternity. It's amazing what is ahead. The longer we live, the more we realize that God has a plan and a purpose, and everything is working according to His plan and His purpose, even with things that we don't understand. And we could all say that we've been there, but God never moves without purpose. And sometimes He waits till He has all the characters in place, and then He moves. And so we're going to talk about that just a little bit. I don't know if you're like a lot of people who they have a bucket list of all the things that they want to do before they die. The good thing for the Christian is we aren't going to die and pass away. There's all of eternity that God says He's going to spend showing the ceaseless ages of eternity, showing us His kindness. So we have a lot to look forward to. We don't even have to make out the bucket list. We can still get it done, even ongoing into eternity. There's a song called "How Big Is God? How big and wide His vast domain. To try to tell, these lips could only start. He's big enough to rule His mighty universe, yet small enough to live within my heart." So we'll talk about first the vastness of God's creation. Genesis 1 is amazing for creation, of course, but one that is sometimes overlooked is the book of Job, starting at chapter 38. I just want to read just a little bit of it for you. You remember Job was volunteered by God for Satan to be able to test him in any way he wanted to. He could do everything except he couldn't take his life. And so Satan took a lot with God's permission. And you recall that Job was a righteous man. Even God Himself said, "A righteous man, one who feareth me and escheweth evil." And He said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" And so even with that great recommendation from God, by the time we get to chapter 38, God speaks out of the whirlwind. And He says, "Where were you," talking to Job, "when I did all of these things?" And I just want to read a few verses. First of all, it would be terrifying for God to speak out of the whirlwind. That would be like hearing His voice out of a tornado. And that would be profound before anything else is said, is just to even hear His voice, much less what He had to say. But it says in Job chapter 38, the Lord to Job, "Who is this that darkeneth counsel by words without knowledge? Gird up now thy loins like a man, and for I will demand of thee, and answer thou me. Where wast thou when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare, if thou hast understanding. Who hath laid the measures thereof, if thou knowest? Or who hath stretched the line upon it? Whereupon are the foundations thereof fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy? Or who shut up the sea with doors, when it brake forth as if it had issued out of the womb? When I made the cloud the garment thereof, and thick darkness a swaddling band for it, and brake up for it in my decreed place, and set bars and doors, and said, Hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. Hast thou commanded the morning since thy days, and caused the day spring to know his place?" He's just going on with all the things He's created. Where were you when all of these happened? Are you the one who did all of these things? And He's making Job see his mortality and God's great majesty and the vastness of what He has created. 38 through the end of the chapter is amazing, but 38 through 40, he just keeps rattling off things. God does. "Where were you when I did this?" And He says all kinds of things. He says, "Do you," in verse 22, "hast thou entered into the treasures of the snow, or hast thou seen the treasures of the hail, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against the day of battle and war?" He says, "Knowest thou the ordinances of heaven? Canst thou set the dominion thereof in the earth? Canst thou lift up thy voice to the clouds, that abundance of waters may cover thee?" So much. "Canst thou mark when hinds do calve? Canst thou number the months that they fulfill? Or knowest thou the time when they bring forth?" He says, "Gavest thou the goodly wings unto the peacock, or wings and feathers unto the ostrich, which leaveth her eggs in the earth, and warmeth them in the dust, and forgetteth that the foot may crush them, or that the wild beast may break them?" And it goes on to say all the reasons He created her the way He did, and He did not impart to her understanding, which is always amazing to me that He did impart to us understanding and wisdom if we just seek for it. And by the time God says all of these things in chapters 38 and 39, come chapter 40, Job responds to the Lord and says, it says, "Then Job answered the Lord and said, Behold, I am vile. What shall I answer thee? I will lay mine hand upon my mouth. Once have I spoken, but I will not answer. Yea, twice, but I will proceed no further." He is beginning to understand greatly who he is and who God is, which is something we all need to come to a better understanding of, no doubt. And God continues listing things that he's done. The horse and its strong neck and how it will just run right into battle. And he talks about all the limits that he's given things. He says, look on everyone that is proud and bring him low, and tread down the wicked in their place, hide them in the dust together, and bind their faces in secret. Then will I also confess unto thee that thine own right hand can save thee. And he talks about Behemoth, he talks about Leviathan in chapter 41. He goes on and says all kinds of things. And then in 42, Job answered the Lord and said, I know that thou canst do everything, and that no thought can be withholden from thee. Who is he that hideth counsel without knowledge? Therefore have I uttered that I understood not. Things too wonderful for me, which I knew not. Hear, I beseech thee, and I will speak. I will demand of thee, and declare thou unto me. I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. Wherefore I abhor myself, and repent in dust and ashes. And in the end, God still just loves on Job, and he tells the friends, only after Job prays for you will I let you back in, basically, is what he's saying. So much about creation in Job 38 through 42, up to 42. But considering the vastness of God's creation, people have always been intrigued with space. Did you know that you can go to Mars? It's a one-way ticket, but you can go. It's going to cost you $14,000 to get there, knowing you're never coming back. But people have just always been intrigued with it. Remember when you were a kid and you would lie on a trampoline at night and look up at the stars, find the Big Dipper and the Little Dipper, and think about what all was out there. Where did it come from? Like, really, it's amazing to think that God spoke everything into existence, and everything that we can see is just our observable universe. I have a thing called Stranger Things, something like that, and it's pictures of our observable universe. But as you keep going through it, the Hubble telescope and all of those things, that they were able to just focus in on a little speck that they saw out in space. We live on the Milky Way galaxy. It found hundreds of galaxies besides ours. Now, I do think that Earth was made for mankind. It says that God created the Earth and he made it for mankind and put us here. So I don't think that there are necessarily all kinds of things going on other planets that would be anywhere near what we have here as far as humanly speaking. But for what purpose did God create a limitless universe? Probably because in the new heaven and new earth, we can explore things that we've never seen or that we've always wondered about. I love the verse, Psalm 104 is awesome, the whole thing, and it's about what God has created and what he's done. And it even says that he toucheth the hills and they smoke. And this is the perfect time of year to see the hills smoke. I saw them yesterday when it was raining, or this morning when I was leaving for work. I saw that, and it just reminds me of God's great creation. But the vastness of his creation is not the only thing. He also values his creation, and that's where we come in. I'm sure he values what he created as far as the world, and he says you can look around and tell there's a God. That's true, but he values us. If you go back to Genesis 1, which is the creation chapter, obviously, but after he created everything, it was good, and God saw it, and it was good. It was good. It was good. When you get down to verse 27, it says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them. And God blessed them. And God said unto them, be fruitful and multiply and replenish the earth and subdue it. And have dominion over the fish of the sea and over the fowl of the air and over every living thing that moveth upon the earth. Who was created last? What was created last? That would be women. I like to teasingly say that everything was good until we came along, and then it was very good, according to verse 31 of chapter 1. But God has a creation that he values. He sees the sparrow fall, and he notices that. How much more so all of us who are made in his image. Everybody is made in his image, but not everybody is a child of God. Everybody's a creation of God. Not everybody is a child of God. But he says what he's going to do in the end, after the millennium and everything, and the great white throne judgment over in Revelation, he says he's going to create new heavens and a new earth. Why would he do that? Because he said he made earth to be inhabited by us. So in eternity, we're going to be doing that. It says in Psalm 115:16, even the heavens are the Lord's, but the earth hath he given to the children of men. He intends for us to inhabit it. I think it's Max Lucado. I have a little plaque thing that says, why give flowers their fragrance? Why give food its taste? Could it be that he just loves to see that look on your face? Yeah, so true. So many things he just made for our enjoyment and our pleasure. So how does God's purpose relate to us as women in creation? I'm going to give you 3 prerequisites that I heard Jack Hyles give one time. And he said, first of all, Eve was not an afterthought. God had her planned all along. She was not an afterthought. Adam wasn't more important because he was created first. You can't go by the order of the creation because the hippopotamus would be more important than Adam was. And then Eve completed creation. She was his completion, not his competition. A lot of ladies, I think, in our day have missed that. But just as Eve, you were made to serve a purpose. And we're talking specifically to females, although these points apply to everybody. Genesis 2:18, and the Lord God said, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him an helpmeet for him. And the problem in the garden started when Eve didn't fulfill her purpose. She was made for fellowship. Adam was made to work. He was naming the animals and all of those things. But then God said it's not good for man to be alone. So he created Eve for fellowship with Adam. Don't you just love that? I love that we were created for the purpose of fellowship. But everything has a purpose. I was looking for hairspray this morning at work and couldn't find any. I didn't have mine. Couldn't find anybody that had any for a bit. And I saw an aerosol can and picked it up. And it was cooking spray. Could I have used it on my hair? I could not, because cooking spray is made for cooking. Hairspray is made for hair. And so it serves a purpose. I had a lady tell me one time, years ago, she said, Lysol is so good at disinfecting and cleansing, maybe we should just gargle it. I thought, make a mental note never to let her watch my children, is what I should do. Let's suppose that you didn't have a cereal bowl, a coffee filter, is white and shaped about the same. Could you put your cereal in a coffee filter? We couldn't. I remember back in the 70s, a lot of us girls, to get larger curls in our hair, would use empty orange juice cans and wash them out and then roll our hair on orange juice cans. Yeah, so sometimes we have to repurpose, but everything is made for a purpose, for sure. I would like to say this about serving our purpose. Men fall in love through their eyes, typically, and women fall in love through their ears, typically. Not to say that we don't appreciate it on both sides, men and women. But that's what happened when Satan talked to Eve. First of all, he talked to her, and she was listening. And then he offered her food, which I think was a really bad trick. And she just couldn't turn the whole thing down. But God made us different than our male counterparts. For a reason. He had a plan. First of all, I'd say we're emotionally different. Emotionally different. Men take risks. Women want security. We women, if God would give us a coupon that says we're saved and we actually can come into heaven, we would never doubt our salvation. I know most men don't doubt their salvation. There are some men, I've doubted their salvation, but the men didn't doubt their salvation. But we want security. We're looking for that. God built that in us to want that security. We were watching my nephew one time, years ago. The house that we lived in, it had a loft upstairs, a den loft that looked down onto the living room. And the sofa was not directly underneath the downstairs, right underneath. It was out a little bit. Well, I passed through the kitchen and looked up, and my nephew, Austin, was standing on the banister upstairs. And I didn't know... Austin, stand still, hold on, I'm coming up. And I went flying up. It was 24 steps, so it was pretty high up. He was about to jump from that rail to see if he could land on the couch. He had to jump out to do it. He was very young. And I'm panicking, thinking, I do not want him to die on my watch. When Dave came behind me through the kitchen and looked up and said, Austin, buddy, you got this, go for it. And Austin took off into midair. And I was just praying he would land on the couch. But men take risks. It's just what they do. Women want security. Men have one-track minds. One thing at a time. I tell ladies when I counsel them, they say, he used to pay so much attention to me, and now he doesn't. I said, I'm going to tell you what happened. You were the goal, and then he got you, and now he wants the boat. And he's just shifted his attention over to the boat. It's just a one-track mind. When it's working well and on you, it works great. We have many-track minds. We can be cooking supper, answering the phone, tying the kids' shoe, helping with homework, all the things at one time. just seeing a little bit of everything of what has to happen. Men lead and provide, women nurture and protect. That's why we're called mother hens. Men are basically logical, deal with facts. We're basically emotional and we deal with feelings. Again, that's not to say that it can't go both ways a little bit. But basically, that's how we're made. So emotionally, we're different. Physically, we're different. Men have more muscles. I guess you figured that out. Please, all of you ladies, don't write me and tell me how many muscles you have, because I'm just saying, generally speaking, men are stronger. There's a big gender thing going on right now. We are softer. I think men like that. God made them to be attracted to us. There should be a soft side to us. He didn't intend for us to look like them. Men have broader shoulders. Guess what we have, ladies? Broader hips. Yeah, I'm going to talk to God about that when I get there. I actually went and looked in the trophy case at school at the trophies, and even on the trophies, the women's hips are wider. Physically speaking, men are typically afraid of being bald. They don't want to be. After COVID, nobody wants to be, not the women either. Women are afraid of being, you guessed it, fat. Every lady just about it that you come across has been on a diet within the last year. Yeah, maybe multiple times, all through their life. So emotionally, we're different. Physically, we're different. Psychologically, we're different. Men try to remain independent. Women are very prone to cling. Men want to be admired. They just want a cheerleader. Women want to critique. I think it was Robert Schuller with the Crystal Cathedral, when he had the model of the Crystal Cathedral, and he took it to show it to his wife, wanting her to just, brag on him. And she looked at it and said, "Who's going to clean those windows?" Yeah, that's what we do. We critique. My husband, he always wanted to please God. He was a good preacher. And a lot of times whenever everybody bowed their heads at invitation time or at the close of the service, he wanted to please God, but I would notice that he glanced toward me. And so one time when he did that, I gave him 2 thumbs up. Good sermon, 2 thumbs up. He loved it. And just about our whole ministry, I could always count on him glancing my direction as he bowed his head to pray. I got to where I do different things. I do a P for powerful, an A for awesome, a T for traveler. Meant that's so good. Preach it everywhere you go, take it with you on the road. And one day I accidentally I just went like that. And he asked me after church, what was up with 1 thumb up? Why didn't I get 2? Yeah, men just want a cheerleader. Ladies, they just want to be cheered on. Men talk a little. Statistics say they're only 10% verbal. 100 minus 10, what does that leave? We're 90% verbal. We saw that coming, didn't we? Men are initiators. Women are reactors. Overwhelmingly, that is so. I used to tease my husband and say, as long as you act right, I react right. It works great. Our thinking is different. Our instincts are different. Our bodies are different. I remember coming home one time and I'd left my husband home. The house was clean. He was watching the kids while I went to a ladies' thing at the church. And I came in and I said, what happened to the house? All the toys were out, everything. He said, hey, the kids are still breathing. I did my job. Yeah, we're just all different, aren't we? Why did God make us different? He did it to serve a purpose. For softness, for sweetness, for spirit. We set the spirit of the home. We're the Holy Spirit in the home. Even for sex. Yeah, we were just needed to serve a purpose. It's a wonderful purpose, but we were made to serve a purpose. Number 2, you have an awesome ability to influence. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in the transgression. That's 1 Timothy 2:14. You have an awesome ability to influence. Adam wasn't deceived. He fell for her. It was all on purpose. That would sound like a good love story, except we know all the outcome was not great. But he fell for her. It's been suggested that we women should probably wear a warning label. We're so dangerous. You know already that your GPS system defaults to a woman's voice, but did you know that in the military, fighter pilots are listening to a female voice giving them their instruction? Again, because men respond to a woman's voice. We have a powerful ability to influence, awesome ability to influence. Heard the story about 11 people who were hanging from a rope over the side of a cliff, and the rope was pulling and stretching, and it didn't sound as if it would make it long, and they were saying that somebody was going to have to let go to give some relief to the rope. And 10 men and 1 woman, the men started saying, I'm CEO of this organization, and such is depending on me. And several of them went through it until finally the woman spoke up, and she said, we women, we sacrifice for our families. It's just our job to do that. I should probably, several minutes. And then she said, probably I should be the one that lets go of the rope. to save all of you. And she did such a wonderful job with her speech that when she finished, they all clapped. Never underestimate the power of a woman, just the influence that's there. You remember the story of Barak in Judges chapter 4. He was going to war, supposed to go to war, and he had 10,000 soldiers. But what did he tell Deborah? I'm not going unless you go with me. He held her in high esteem. Some of you may remember Dante from literature. Dante's love for Beatrice shows the influence of a woman. Paraphrased, he said this: when Beatrice appeared in any place and I was allowed to hope for her to look my way or say hello, there was no man mine enemy any longer, and such a flare of charity came upon me that most certainly in that moment I would have pardoned whoever had done me wrong. What influence? Women of the Bible, we see those that served their purpose and influenced many greatly. You have Abigail and Esther and Ruth and Sarah and Mary and Priscilla, Peter's mother-in-law even. She got up and ministered to the disciples and to Jesus after he healed her. 1 Samuel 25 is one of my favorites, though. Abigail and David, yeah, just her influence. Number 3, last point, you must be beautiful on the inside to be beautiful on the outside. It's inside out job. There are 3 things that tell on us. Number 1 is our countenance. So many verses. The Lord said to Cain, he noticed, why is thy countenance fallen? This is after Cain slew Abel, or he was discouraged about Abel. Isaiah 3:9 says, the show of their countenance doth witness against them. Our very countenance actually speaks out against us. So it's important to keep that right. Song of Solomon 2:14. I love Song of Solomon. O my dove, let me see thy countenance. Let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice, and thy countenance is comely. So our countenance tells on us. Our conversation tells on us. Matthew 12:34, for out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaketh. And then our company, 1 Corinthians 15:33, evil communications, which means the company, corrupt good manners. No doubt Eve was beautiful. When God made her and brought her to Adam, she was obviously the best thing he had ever seen, the only thing he had ever seen in that regard for female company. But she was no doubt beautiful. Her hair, her skin, her complexion, her weight, whatever it was, she was beautiful. And I'm sure Adam was totally taken with her. But whenever they had sinned and God came walking in the cool of the day as before, looking for them, he called for Adam because he was head of the family. And what did Adam do? He threw her under the bus. Yeah. Just because she had brought this about on them. You have to be clean on the inside to be beautiful on the outside. It's just the way it works. A woman who is clean and sweet and right with God is truly pretty. Do you remember your mother saying when you were growing up, pretty is as what? Pretty does. We know our weak spots. I was at a conference one time, and a big door prize was given to whichever woman had the most safety pins in her clothes. And I think the lady that won had 20-something, 25, 26, 27, something like that, safety pins. She won it. I would never have admitted that. But she apparently was held together totally by safety pins. There was a high school principal one time, and girls are into having, the full lips, and they would kiss the mirror in the bathroom. I guess they hoped word would get around that they had, beautiful pouty lips or whatever it was. And the principal had asked several times, please don't do that. It's hard to clean the bathroom mirror. And so they just continued to do it, and he asked for a meeting in the bathroom one afternoon after school, and he asked the janitor to meet with them there, with him and the girls. And he said, I've been telling these girls how hard it is to clean the mirrors after they kiss them. And I thought maybe you could just show them how difficult it is, and maybe they would have understanding. So the janitor dipped the toilet brush in the toilet and then did like this on the mirror. They never had any more competition with lip prints on the mirror. Because while they might have wanted it to get out that they had beautiful pouty lips that I guess looked kissable, who knows? They knew no boy wanted to kiss lips that had touched toilet water on the bathroom mirror. So you have to be clean. A little girl asked her daddy one time, is it true that Jesus lives inside of us? He said, yes, sweetheart, that's true. She said, well, shouldn't he be showing through? Yeah, I think he should. We have a book, my husband and I have had a book called The Cure for the Common Life by Max Lucado. And there's a section in there on worshiping God. And I'd like to end this lesson with reading that. It pulls together all about what God created and why he created it and how we fit into his plan. And it says this, we worship God because we need to, but our need runs a turtle-paced distant second. to the thoroughbred reason for worship. If singing did nothing but weary your voice, if giving only emptied your wallet, if worship did nothing for you, it would still be right to do. God warrants our worship. Now, how else do you respond to a being of blazing, blistering, unadulterated, unending holiness? No mark, no freckle, not a bad thought, bad day, or bad decision ever. What do you do with such holiness if not adore it? And his power, he churns forces that launch meteors, orbit planets, and ignite stars, commanding wells to spout salty air, petunias to perfume the night, and songbirds to chirp joy into spring. Above the earth, flotillas of clouds endlessly shape and reshape. Within the earth, strata of groaning rocks shift and turn. Who are we to sojourn on a trembling, wonderful orb, so shot through with wonder and tenderness? God has never taken his eyes off you, not for a millisecond. He's always near. He loves to hear your heartbeat. He loves to hear your prayers. He'd die for your sin before he'd let you die in your sin. So he did. What do you do with such a Savior? Don't you sing to him? Don't you celebrate him in baptism? Elevate him in communion? Don't you bow a knee, lower a head, hammer a nail, feed the poor, and lift up your gift in worship? Of course you do. Worship God. Applaud him loud and often. For your sake, you need it, and for heaven's sake, he deserves it.